Here at Punch Ons, we are all about the violence. We're all about the doom, the pain, the punishment that these fighters inflict on each other. I love it. That's what this is all about. That's why I became a UFC fan. I love it when blokes rip each other's heads off and go to war and beat their chests and just smash each other. It's good. This is what the UFC is. Love it. Blood dripping all off each other. Diego Lopes versus Jean Silva. That was what I'm talking about. That is straight up a festival of violence, just gore and these blokes just wailing on each other. I really appreciated that fight. And it inspired me to create and celebrate these types of fights in the UFC. So I've gone through recent UFC history. Pardon me. We're talking like post Conor McGregor era. Now, like basically since I started getting back into the UFC on a serious basis and in an analytical kind of basis, around about after the McGregor Poirier 2, we'll call it the AM era after McGregor. That's kind of the starting point for this tier list. If I kept going back forever and ever, we'd have a 3-hour tier list on our hands. I had to cut it somewhere. So yeah, I've decided loosely, not even like an official cutoff date, but I've just included recent fights, basically. If I was scrolling back through the UFC website and seeing fancy posters and done up in the same style as they are at the moment, then it's a good chance it's included on this list. We're also only including main events. And so shout out like Gaethje versus Holloway. That won't be making the list, but hey, that was an epic war as well. Look, I've definitely missed a few of your favourite bloody wars. There'll be some weird placements as well. You got to remember, I'm a cooked Aussie biased UFC fan, so there'll be a whole bunch of Volk on here and a bit of JDM, and if you don't like the blokes and the fights I put up here, then I do not give a shit. So without further ado, let's get into it. The most violent UFC main events in recent history. Let's get into it. The reason we are here and the fight that inspired this video, it's got to be Diego Lopes versus Jean Silva. Great like art for this event as well. Straight up S tier. This is why we're here, boys. S tier for Jean Silva and Diego Lopes. This was pure chaos, this fight. Both boys were throwing hard. They were both eating shots, both like jawing at each other and mouthing off mid-fight. Lopez's chin is absolute granite. He ate some nukes from Silva in round 2. And Silva, his chin's pretty good too. He got smoked and bloodied up bad and beaten by Diego in round 1. And came back and made it an interesting, scrappy war in round 2. Look, a little bit of feeling each other out as well in both rounds. But once they got going, these boys, it was nasty. This was going to be, if this kept going to 3, 4, 5 rounds, this would have been an all-time war of our lifetime, boys. So it's a shame we only got to round 2, but the finish was just absolutely superb. It was sublime. Clear S tier, Lopes versus Silva. Let's keep going because there's a fair few to get through. Volk versus Ilya. I'm going to put that in D tier. Now, if this was a saddest moments of all time tier list, we'd be looking at S tier here, but we're talking about violent fights. And for a fight to be high on this list, well, if it's on the list, it's already some good violence, except for maybe the F tiers. But for it to be high up this tier list, we're looking for consistent blood, punishment and pain landed, both guys scrapping it out. If it's a one-sided affair, you'll be struggling to kind of get it much higher up the tier list. So Volk versus Ilya, D tier. Volk had a pretty good round 1 and kind of pieced up Ilya. Ilya wears a fair bit of damage on his face, and Volk is that good that even the shots that you don't think are going to land are landing on Ilya. So credit to Volk for actually putting some damage on Ilya's face, but that's not the reason why this fight is on this list. Round 2, Ilya's just backed him up and sent him to the shadow realm with that one shot. It was sad. I remember the sadness and the feeling that I had when my little boy Volk got chinned. I think that was for the second time. But in terms of the damage, it was over pretty quick. One good straight shot, down he goes, a couple of follow-ups, and it's going in the D tier. Sad, but not that violent. This one, though, this was also sad, but very violent. This is Gane versus Tuivasa. Bam Bam versus Cyril Gane. In Paris, that's going in the A tier. That was a sick fight. It was round 1, Cyril was just looking clean and piecing him up a bit, but Ty was landing back. Round 2 was sick. They both wobbled each other. Like Ty lands a big overhand right just on the tip of Cyril's chin, puts him down and then follows up with some good shots, but Cyril does well to survive. Then later in the round, Cyril lands a big head kick. Ty does like the big fake wobbling and jiggling all over the place, like he won Kute Laba against Big Ank, but I think Ty was actually rock. But Ty's got that dog in him, and when he does get hurt, his first instinct is to stick and throw, like to stand and bang. So respect to Ty for that. That's why we love watching him. But after that sort of first rock where Cyril survived Ty's comeback, Gunn just started attacking his beer belly, like just digging the toes and skewering that beer belly, just hitting it bad. Ty was really feeling those shots to the belly. And then round 3 was just a massacre. Cyril just lands a couple of good shots, more on the body, backs him up, a couple of right hooks, and down goes Ty. And the follow-up shots were really nasty on this one. Crowd frothing, violent fight. Respect to Ty. He's been in some wars, but usually on the receiving end. So that's going in the A tier, strong contender. All right, let's keep moving. We've got Islam versus the Diamond, DP. This one is also going to go in the D tier. D tier for Islam and Dustin. Gritty 5-round fight. Pretty good fight. Like, entertaining to watch. It was a scrap. Both boys were bloodied up. They were landing clean on each other. It just felt like Islam was in control of the fight the whole time. They weren't really ever close to finishing each other, really. Like Dustin did good in the boxing, but I think the fact that he did decent and he made it a competitive fight raises its stocks a little bit. It wasn't the most entertaining fight, but it was a good, scrappy, back and forth title fight and deserves to be on the list. Pretty good, nasty Darce choke finish in round 5 for Islam, but it can't go above D tier. It's a different type of sort of violence to be in D tier than Volk and Ilya, but I don't think you can put it much higher than that. Good fight, though. I enjoyed watching that one. Next up, we got Grant Dawson versus Bobby Green. That's going in the F tier. Now, you might be thinking, what? Like, that was a first-round KO. Yeah, it was a 33-second KO that I reckon my nan could have took on the chin. It was not a hard punch. Well, obviously it was a hard punch, but it didn't do wonders for our opinion of Grant Dawson or his chin here. Bobby Green landed a weak-looking left hand that put Dawson down bad after 33 seconds of round 1. Landed some pretty quiet-looking pillow hammer fists afterwards, and Grant Dawson's done. In terms of like a round 1 finish, being in the F tier, that says everything that needs to be said. It was not a particularly violent finish, but you can't blame Bobby Green for that, can you? Just Grant Dawson's chin did not stand up to that one. Keep going to Dustin versus Justin. This is their second fight for the BMF belt when Justin head kick KO'd him. That's going in the C tier. BMF fights, you've got this level of expectation that they're going to be bloody wars. They've all been pretty good so far. We haven't had like a really shit BMF fight yet. This was probably one of the worst ones, I guess. I don't know. It was a decent fight. They had a good round 1 where they traded and Gaethje got split above the eye early, and then just like it was looking like it was going to be like a typical DP fight, just a gritty kind of 5-rounder, and then round 2, Gaethje just detonates a head kick and sleeps Poirier pretty bad. Like, put him down bad. I think he was fairly knocked out, and then there was one good follow-up shot from Justin. It was brutal. It was a sick fight to that point, but it was kind of over too quick, and it didn't really like look like it was a huge amount of damage that had been landed. The head kick kind of just caught the temple at a bad angle, wrapped it around his head. It was a magnificent head kick, but yeah, not really a bloody rock'em sock'em robots fight you can say about that one. All right, this one, however, Money Moicano versus Benoit Saint-Denis. That's going in the S tier as well. Dude, that was nasty. That's definitely an S tier, like, violence fight for sure. Moicano was just carving up BSD's face with elbows in round 1. Round 1 was one of the most disgusting displays of clean elbow ground and pound that I've ever seen. And Benoit Saint-Denis really copped an absolute hiding in that round 1. It was amazing it wasn't stopped just in that round. Like, BSD's eyes were so swollen. He was pretty much blind. They were completely puffed shut, both of them. Blood absolutely pissing all over the octagon. And credit to Benoit, he was still fighting. He's a dog, Benoit. We just saw him out-dog Roofy recently. The end of round 2 was where it was called off by doctor stoppage. So to have a 2-round fight with a doctor's stoppage, still be one of the kings of violence. That goes to show how devastating that damage that Moicano done in round 1 was. Because in round 2, BSD started piecing him up. He survived and started actually winning the fight on round 1, even though both of his eyes were barely working. So credit to BSD. He's a tough man. That was a sick, like a disgusting display of violence. It was a biblical, bloody fight. Yeah, definitely S tier. Next up, we've got Fluffy Hernandez and Michelle Pereira. I've got to put this one in the B tier. This was a pretty nasty performance from Fluffy. He's got that nasty style, man. Like, a lot of his fights are violent and bloody and like, ew, they make you feel a little bit, like this guy's, I would not want to be in a cage with this guy. He's nasty with it. B tier, Pereira actually had some moments early and teed off early, but Fluffy shook it off and stayed in it. And after he'd survived his 30 seconds of aggression and cardio, it was just pure domination for Fluffy ever since. He wrestle fucked him in round 1, he eye poked him in round 2. Pereira gassed out hard and just looked like he didn't want to be in there. And if you're gassed out in an octagon with a mean, keen, lean Fluffy Hernandez, I don't know about lean, but if you're in that moment with him and you're gassed out and you don't want to be there, you're going to have a bad time. He was tagging him up on the feet, putting in nasty groundwork. I think round 4 or round 3, there was one point where it was 70 significant strikes to 0, and it was just pure domination and control by Fluffy in rounds 3 and 4, until there was a really nasty sequence in round 5 where he just split him up bad, pieced him up with elbows on the ground and pound, dropping elbows. The ref shows a bit of mercy and steps in and stops what could have been an even worse beating for Michelle Pereira. So strange, Michelle Pereira, the way he fights, because he looks like he's like this Adonis who just should be mogging everyone, but then he just shows that he hasn't got a lot of heart. So very interesting, but in terms of a bloody war, you got to respect this one, putting it in the B tier. All right, next fight we have got Max Holloway versus Ilia Topuria, a little Spanish sausage. We're going B tier with this one. This is pretty nasty as well. Different type of fight to Fluffy versus Pereira, but still a worthy B tier contender. Competitive early. Ilya mixed in the wrestling, and that kind of made it a little bit dull. Not dull, but because the tension was really high in this fight. We all wanted to see what Max could do against Ilya. But Ilya just sort of kept safe in round 1. Round 2 was pretty competitive as well. Ilya starting to land a bit. Max getting his own back as well. They were both a little bit busted up by the time that the big moment came in round 3. Like, both had been piecing each other up. Like I said before, Ilya does wear a little bit of damage on his face, but Max was wearing some in this fight as well. I think Ilya was definitely getting the better of Max more than he was getting the better of Volk, if you know what I mean, in their round 1 and round 2 before the finish. Then obviously round 3, the huge straight right from Ilya just puts Max on Crip Street. He's wobbling all over the place. Then follows up and lands that left hook of doom, and that was a saucy shot. That one, that was brutal. It was just on the chin. Max goes down bad. Follows up. The ground and pound was way more nasty in this performance too, and Ilya just becomes the first man to ever KO Max Bless Holloway. So you got to put in the B tier for that only, and it was a nasty finish as well. Max looked like he was completely shocked because he didn't know how to get knocked out, and Ilya taught him how to get knocked out. So respect to Ilya. You're gonna see a bit of him on this tier list as well. Now I'm gonna put. There can be a few kind of fights where if there's like a 2-fight or a trilogy or something, I'm going to put them together. So Alex versus Izzy, I'm considering both of their fights together. I'm going to put them in the C tier. Alex Pereira, Israel Adesanya, both fights, both quite different fights, but I'm going to include them all as like one big 6-round fight sort of thing. Big respect for both of these boys. Like this fight was really hyped up. Both fights were really hyped up. Huge storyline. It was all on the line. But I do think that in both of these fights, the hype somewhat outweighed the violence of the fights. Izzy's never really been known to be a very violent fighter and he doesn't really get in the trenches with his opponent. He likes to stay clean and steady, but there was something different about this one because Izzy's pride was on the line in this one. He wanted to beat Alex more than he probably wanted to beat any of his other opponents. And he fought differently. He fought like a more dangerous opponent, I think, Izzy. He fought well in both fights. In the first fight, Izzy got tagged up and sort of stopped on his feet at the end in round 5. It was a technical close chess match up to that point with a bit of damage. I think Alex got rocked at the end of round 1 or 2, I remember, and almost put out. He was sort of like doing the chicken dance right at the end of the round, and Izzy it looked similar to the moment that he finished him in the second fight. And then, but there was some pretty brutal damage against Izzy in that first fight in round 5. Like, I was going crazy when I was watching that live. Alex just hunting him down, just Terminator mode. And Izzy, if they let that go on a little bit longer, we might be seeing this, up in that B or the A tier, because there was a potential that Alex was going to put him down bad there, but the ref saved him. And then in the second fight, Izzy just gets his revenge, and he's getting backed up against the cage by Pereira, similar to their round 5 first fight, but Izzy just finds his moment. He's a caged line up, backed into the corner, and he struck and he got it done. It was pretty sick. It was a huge moment in the UFC. I wouldn't call them all-time wars with a huge amount of violence and damage. There was some damage done, and Izzy especially got pieced up in that round 5 in their first fight, and then Alex just got slapped bad, like laid out cold in the Octagon, and bloody emoted on. So, got to be up here in the C tier, both fights. Give them some respect, but not all-time violent wars. Let's keep going. Covington versus Masvidal. Going in the F tier with this one. Bloody journeyman shit. Honestly, overhyped journeyman scrap. They put this as a main event of a pay-per-view, I believe, when there was no title fight on the line, no BMF belt. Like, didn't deserve to fight for the BMF belt, even though Masvidal was the BMF. Yeah, it was months of trash talk going into this fight. They yapped at each other for ages. They did all the promo packages trying to sell this thing as like a big bad blood fight that was going to be a brutal, disgusting war, and ended up being a 5-round affair that was just completely dull and wrestling based. Like, Colby just did his thing and won by a clear decision. It was absolutely nothing compared to what these boys were promising. I think they even were trying to fight after the bell and bring each other on, but boys, you had 5 minutes, you had 25 minutes to settle it, and they didn't. And then Jorge cheap shots him outside the restaurant a couple of weeks later or whenever it was. So in terms of these boys promising and what they actually delivered, it's got to go in the F tier. Not a very exciting or interesting main event at all. This one, though, this is a strong contender in S tier. This is Dominic Reyes versus Yuri Prohaska. This is damn near one of my favourite fights of all time. And in terms of just madness, chaos, violence, damage, excitement, oh, man, more fights like this are needed. Dominic Reyes, he's got a bit of dog in him, but Yuri's just got that mad, wild man, samurai, crazy, tap, schizo sort of vibe. This was a collision course, and it was a recipe for disaster, and we got it, thankfully. Sometimes these type of fights end in a weird way, or they end early, or something, an injury or something happens. But these boys, they threw down. This was madness. They both rocked each other early. They were putting insane pressure on each other, both testing each other's chins. Round 2, Reyes lands like on Yuri, and I was like, wow, like Dom's got sick hands, but Yuri's chin is absolutely insane. He's like unkillable, as we've seen in a few of his fights. Yuri is a beast. He survived a deep gilly and then ate an up kick from Reyes, and that was in round 2. That was pretty hectic. And then he just gets back up and calmly just enters his flow state and starts just landing the most wicked elbows, just like lead elbow. He backs like Dom up against the cage and just goes lead elbow, spinning back elbow, boom, just flatlines Reyes, face down, ass up. And this, boys, was the art of violence. I bring a storm, but it was not perfect, but it was a storm. And this was a perfect storm, and let's go for that. Yuri, bro, mad dog. Got to be S tier this fight. So sick. Let's keep running. Michael Chandler versus Charles du Bronx. We're going to go in the A tier with this one. This is their first fight. And I'm really only talking about their first fight here because I don't think their second fight was a main event. I think it might have been the co-main of like might have been, I don't know, an Alex Pereira fight or something. But yeah, their first fight when it was for the vacant title, and we didn't really know a lot about Michael Chandler. I think it might have been his second fight in the UFC after he come off a knockout over Dan Hooker. Charles, we knew about him. We knew this was going to be a good fight, but we got an iconic war with this one. This is a sick fight. It was only, again, another just over 1 round fight, but epic stuff. Round 1, back and forth. Charles just marauding forward, throwing those like teeps and straight shots, and then Chandler just clips him, drops him bad, jumps on the gilly, and there's just starts, and like Charles is pissing blood out of his head. I think they got back up, and then Michael Chandler dropped him again bad and just starts pounding him up against the cage, and Charles is just getting smacked all around, and he almost got finished in round 1. It was a really good finish to the round for Michael Chandler, and we all thought it was going to go really bad for Charles. And then round 2 starts, Charles comes out just looking clean again, and just lands a big shot on Mike's chin and knocks it, like sends him kind of careering back against the cage. And that was within the first 7 seconds of the fight. Clips him, and then like Mike gets back up and then just lays the left hand from Charles, drops him again and finishes him, like kind of backs him up against the cage and follows him along and just lands that left that just puts him down. And the ground and pound was actually pretty clean and pretty accurate and pretty nasty from Charles here. So yeah, that was a sick little like 6-minute crazy fight. A-tier scrap, especially the fact that it was for the title, makes it a little bit more interesting and memorable as well. So shout out Charles and Michael. That was a pretty sick fight. All right, next up we've got Stephen Wonderboy Thompson and Kevin Holland. People forget, man, this is a banger. This is an epic fight. These boys threw down, and it was a mad, just striking war. It was like a clinic from Thompson in the end. But Holland had his moments, and it made for a really interesting fight. Round 1, Holland hurt Wonderboy, but he also got split. And then just after they sort of had I think Wonderboy was actually pretty rocked in round 1. He was sort of skidding all over the place. But once he'd kind of taken Holland's best shot and then got his legs back, he just started unleashing the absolute full arsenal of head kicks, body kicks, spinning kicks, jumping kicks, teep kicks, just putting on a kicking clinic, like a karate clinic that we know and love Wonderboy for. They were landing big shots though, both of them. Like in round 4, Wonderboy rocked Holland with a big spinning head, wheel kick, I think, like a heel to the side of the head, and then just backed him up and dropped him like with body shots and head shots and some savage ground and pound. I think that was the end of round 4, and then Holland just couldn't get back up, and the corner chucked in the towel, which is a bit of a shame. But we got everything what we wanted out of this fight. This was a mad striking clinic, and deserves to be on this card for sure. So A tier for that one. Rightio, next fight is Volk versus Yair. That's going in the C tier. Not the most violent bloody war. I wouldn't argue with you if you said maybe a little bit lower, but I'm a fucking biased Aussie Volk fan, so leave me alone. C tier, we're going with this one. Volk big brothered him early with the grappling. Like Volk leaned into his grappling for this fight. We knew that Yair would have a bit of a striking advantage, and he's a bit of a, he was going to be able to piece Volk up. So Volk, just with his great fight IQ, just spent the first couple of rounds just doing what he needed to do and grappling and taking a bit of wind and gas out of Yair's sails. Then it got interesting after about round 2 or 3 because Yair had a bit more time on the feet and he started landing some spinning kicks and some I think he might have split Volk at one point as well. Then I believe in round 3 or 4 there was a really nasty head clash, and that was what spelled the beginning of the end for Yair because, mate, you don't want to fucking head clash Volk's bald head, mate. His head's built of fucking bricks. He's got a hard head on him, Volk, and he just rammed it up into Yair's dome and half knocked him out. And then from there, Volk just lands that sick pull counter right hand and has his iconic Volk finishing sequence where he's just combo up against the cage, like he's covering up, knee, body, hooks in, like drops him, takedown, bang, bang, hooks in the back, and then just, taps him out with ground and pound. So not taps him out, but, pounds him out. Sick finish from Volk, and like that moment itself was a good bit of violence and pretty good for Volk, who's not really usually the most violent and a blood and guts type of fighter, but this was a sick finish from Volk and deserves to be on the list. C tier for that one. All right, we're staying on the Volk train for a little bit here, and we're going to go with Volk versus Ortega. I'm putting that in the A tier as well, bro. This was a sick fight. I remember where I was watching this fight. I was at the pub at my hometown, and, we're all fucking pissed and, let's fucking go Volk. We're all getting around Volk. This was a sick fight. Like the first half of the fight, like not as good. It was a technical kind of, sizing them out sort of performance. And then it just turned into madness and mayhem after the wrestling sort of began and the crazy scrambles began. So it was, I think, round 3 that Ortega caught a kick from Volk. Dropped him, like he sort of, as he caught the kick, he's kind of dropped him off balance with a good right hand, and then Volk goes down, and as he's sort of trying to scramble up, Ortega just jumps a mounted ghillie, and he had that thing so tight, it was almost squeezing Volk's eyeballs out of his head. And I reckon 90% of fighters would tap to that, but Volk, maybe even 95, but Volk is not fucking 95% of fighters. He's a goat for a reason. Volk survives, and hops out of that ghillie. Now the ghillie was tight as it was, but the damage that Volk did as revenge to Ortega after that ghillie, that's what really took this fight to the next level. Volk just fucking smashed him, just inflicted doom on Ortega. Absolutely, wow, it was hectic ground and pound. That first lot of ground and pound after he got out of the ghillie, like he was so pissed off that he'd even had the hide to put him in the ghillie and just smashed him for it. And then Ortega had another moment, I think, in the same round, maybe towards the end of that round 4, where he threw up a triangle and got that tight as well and rolled Volk over, and somehow Volk survived that as well. And then at the end of that round, Ortega's eye was so smashed up from that ground and pound that the ref nearly stopped it. But thankfully they let it go on because, I don't know, apparently that ref just fucking loves violence. Because after that, it was just Volk smashing the shit out of him and just pumping him up. I was feeling these shots, and I'm a Volk fan and I want him to win, but I was still feeling those elbows and hands hitting Ortega going, oh, like, how is he taking this shit? How is his head not being just completely caved in? Ortega's got a wicked chin, and look, Volk hasn't got the most power in the world, but the shots he was landing were so clean and so nasty in this fight. And then Ortega still rallied in round 5 and made it a scrappy sort of finish as well. It was a savage war. Respect to these boys, they threw it down. This kind of earned T-City a bit of respect from me, but that slowly fizzled out. But you got to respect his chin and his heart in this fight. Let's keep going. Next up, we've got DP and Connor. McGregor versus Poirier. It's going to have to go in the C tier. Look, their first fight obviously was way back. We're not really talking too much about that. It was over pretty quick. Their second fight was decent. That's the one where Poirier shocked the world and kind of beat Connor up and kicked his legs and backed him up and pumped him up against the cage. That was a sick finish, but I don't know if the finish itself was, or the fight itself would have been as hype as it was without the people, Connor, it being Connor's first knockout. But their third fight, that was pretty nasty as well. DP was tagging him up and busting him up after he'd sort of hurt his leg as well, and there was some nasty ground and pound. There was a bit of nasty ground and pound in their second fight as well. So, look, 3 fights, 2 knockouts, and a broken leg. You got to respect the violence in that. Dustin, when he gets going and when he wants to really hurt his opponent, he fucking gets going. And Connor took the full impact of that. So I'll respect it by putting in the C tier, but it's hard to grade that one because the 3 fights were really at different stages of their career. But iconic, violent, good for the UFC. C tier. John Jones versus Cyril Gahn. We're going with we're going into F tier for that one, lol. Fucking rigged ass banana peel slipping fight, this one. Gahn just fell over and basically let John tackle him. Well, it was a takedown, but there wasn't a lot of resistance for a big fella like that. I can't imagine Jones is just that elite and that much better at his wrestling that he's able to just do whatever he wants to any fighter in the UFC. Cyril's a big, strong dude, but I don't think he's got enough heart or fight IQ to really use his assets that he's got. But Jones just basically does a squat while holding Cyril's neck and rubs his forehead a little bit, and Cyril taps out and the ref calls it. So massive letdown this fight. It's got to go in the F tier. It was a sick card, I think, but up to that point. All right, fuck that F tier off. We're getting on to the S tier. We're going with my boy, Biggie Boy, rest his soul. He's no longer with us in the UFC, versus Shamil Gaziev. The meal deal, Gaziev. S tier for Biggie Boy versus Gaziev, man. Whew, what a war this one. Biggie Boy just fucking pieced him up, bruh. Destroyed him so bad that Gaziev nearly went into cardiac arrest. He literally couldn't breathe, and I think he gassed out so bad that he his eye stopped working. So this, apart from bloody Bisping, is the only fight in recent memory where one of the fighters has actually gone blind. That's got to be in the ST just for that alone. So Biggie Boy versus the Meal Deal. That was the real deal. That was nasty. Shout out Biggie Boy. Hope he finds his way back into the UFC, but I doubt it. Mate, fucking Bobby Knuckles versus Aliskerov. We're going in the D tier with that one. Sick performance from Bobby Knux. He was supposed to be fighting Hamzat. I think that might have gone a bit different. That one. Did I forget about Bobby versus Hamzat? That was pretty actually violent. Might have been a main event. It was a main event, I think. Hamzat versus Whittaker maybe goes in the B tier just for that, just for the tooth. But we're going to go with D tier for Bobby Knux versus Ikram Aliskerov. Bobby Knux just shut his lights out, mate. Just fucking jab, head kick, just done his combo. Had Aliskerov doing the chicken dance. It was actually pretty funny the way that Aliskerov was chicken dancing up against the cage, just doing like the crip shuffle. And then just Bobby Knux with that precision uppercut that just folds him up against the cage like a lawn chair. And quick follow-up. It was over pretty quick. Not too much else to talk about before that. But good shit from fucking Bobby Knuckles. We'll give him a D tier for violence there. All right, who we got next? We got Alex Pereira versus Jamal Hill. Powhatan versus Sweet Dreams is going to go down into the D tier. Sick fight, big moment, UFC 300 main event, but not really that much of a scrap up until the cool moment. Like the cool moment was fucking awesome. It was the Alex Pereira like marauding in, gets kicked in the dick and just hold up, let me cook. Bang, left hook just sleeps Jamal bad, and then there was some pretty nasty follow-up ground and pound, but you can't really let the scope of the moment and just that one cool moment, get it too many points in terms of violence. It wasn't the most consistently violent fight. It's on that realm of Ilya versus Volk or Ikram versus Whittaker. So we'll put it in the D tier and we'll keep going. Arman Sarukian versus Benil Dariush. We're going to get this one in the D tier as well. Similar kind of, result and fight to a couple of these ones we just spoke about. I won't talk about it for too long. It did feel really nasty live. Like it was really nasty. But in terms of extended violence, like Benil went down off the first good shot that Arman hit on him. The knee that actually kind of started all off didn't even really land. It was the big right hand that Arman landed after that really... that sat Benny down bad, and then he followed up pretty brutally. But it was over in a flash. It looked worse than it was. It's on the same tier as these ones. We're going to go DT with it, but sick performance from Arman. We got Glover versus Jamal Hill now. Glover versus Hill. I'm going to put this one in the B tier. This was actually pretty nasty from Jamal Hill. Not like, people forget, man. This one was actually, at the time, a really impressive performance from Jamal Hill and a pretty actually like nasty war. It was a bloody like gritty domination from Jamal Hill. Glover's toughness and his chin like were the only things that really kept this interesting because Jamal Hill schooled him, and this was like prime Jamal Hill, I guess, but maybe Glover was over the hill as well. Glover ate some serious damage in this fight. He ate body kicks, headshots. His face was like completely mashed up like nightmare fuel. And actually, Hill had a couple of rough moments, I think, in maybe round one as well. So I'm going to go solid B tier. That was a good fight, that. We'll see this fella back soon. Piotr Yan versus Merab. Straight to the F tier, boys. Hurts to say this one, but this was a shit fight. This was not this is an anti-violent fight, this one. It was hyped up. Like everyone loves, we all love Piotr Yan and wanted to see him win this fight. But the love for Piotr kind of clouded our judgment on this one because it was right for Merab to just dominate him the way that he did. And it was just Merab spamming takedowns, frustrating Yan, hitting him with baby punches like hitting little bloody bath toy punches. It was anti-violent fight. It was anti-fun. It was fucking anti-scrap. It was. I still like Merab, but that's got to go in the F tier. That was a shit main event. What about Volk versus TKZ, bro? That's you got to put fucking Volk versus TKZ in there at the B tier, mate. That was fucking sick. That was Volk's most dominant, pure striking and like damage performance, I reckon. The Ortega fight was way nastier, but it was kind of all on the ground, and it was a result of some counter grappling and that. In terms of just Volk doing his thing and striking on the feet and landing damage, this is about his sort of piece de resistance Volk. This was his big performance. I remember I was down in South Australia watching this fight at my cousin's wedding or something. And I remember just watching it going, oh man, stop the fight, turn it off. Like, we don't need to see any more of this. TKZ was taking some big damage in that fight, but it didn't really offer enough back. Like, Volk didn't take any any damage in that fight, so it's hard to move it too far up. It was more of like a sad decline kind of vibe. We're gonna go high C tier, probably low B tier. It's one of the lower ones there, but we'll chuck it in the B tier. Volk was landing some pretty nasty shit in that fight, and thankfully they mercy stopped it. I'm gonna put Holloway versus TKZ in here as well. I think that fight was a bit more of a nasty finish, but not really that much nastier in terms of the overall damage accumulation. It was like Volk's damage was more visible and telling on the fight, but then obviously we had that sick KO from Max where he just kind of sent like zombie knocked out halfway through throwing a punch, and it was pretty filthy. It was, shout out TKZ. It was his retirement. It was a sick moment, but a pretty nasty performance from Max in the end, which we all kind of expected to go that way a bit. So B tier for both the TKZ fucking beatdowns. All right, let's keep going. We got Izzy versus Strickland. I'm going to chuck this one in the D tier. Not too far away from F, but you got to appreciate the moment that Sean had in round one where he busted his gut. Honestly, like not in terms of violence, just in terms of happiness and just the way that I wanted things to go. One of my favourite fights in the UFC history. Like, I just loved seeing Sean come to Australia and fucking wear his fucking Nakubra and hype the crowd up and call Izzy a dog fucker and then damn near chin him in round one. If you had chinned him in round one, it would have been peak UFC. But Izzy's chin, well, was decent. It's not as good anymore. Round one, Sean just drops him with a straight right, and then I counted him, he landed about 23 big shots, like winging big punches around the guard afterwards. So shout out to Izzy for taking that damage. That was the only moment of the fight though where we really got any damage, because after that, and after Izzy survived round one and got tapped up by Sean, it just became a snoozer after that. It was just defense, teeps, leg kicks, and the other 4 rounds were barely worth watching. So I can't put it much further up than a D tier, but that round one alone and just how sick it was that Sean smashed him so bad, that's got to go in the D tier. We'll keep moving. Delidze versus Hernandez, I'm going to chuck that in the B tier. I told you that Fluffy would be back, and this was one of his nasty performances. I reckon this is still pretty recent, but, I mean, who does that to Roman Delidze? Like a lot of people do. Anyone who's half decent does, but still, Roman Delidze is a big dude. He's well-rounded. He's a triple threat. He's a double threat, according to Anthony Smith. But Fluffy's pace and his heart is insane, and he's total disregard for his opponent. He does not give a fuck. Delidze had nothing but toughness, basically, and fence grabs. Once he was gassed and broken over like 3 or 4 rounds, it was like big brother and little brother. He just nasty wrestling, just smothered him, took him down, landed knees, elbows, and then he had that disgusting drag rear naked choke to finish things. Just completely just embarrassed Delidze, and it's got to be B tier violence. Fluffy's fighting style is always going to bring the violence. I like him. Speaking of a nasty performance, Josh Emmett versus Ilya Topuria. Ilya fucked him up, bro. This was nasty from Ilya. This is going in the A tier. This is borderline S tier. This was a star-making performance from Ilya. He dropped Emmett multiple times in round 2, busted him up, absolutely murdered his legs. Emmett was firing back and trying to hang in there. And Emmett's a good fighter of his own right, but it's Ilya Topuria. He was in his prime. He's too slick, too fast. Round 4 and 5, Emmett got put through that fucking meat grinder, bro. It was pretty savage, some of the damage. And like he dropped him multiple times, jumped on him, followed up, landed big, devastating ground and pound. Emmett, it was a miracle that Emmett stayed in this, hey. I think the cards there was a couple of 50-42 cards in the end. So big performance from Ilya and deserving in the A tier. I better speed this up a bit. This video is getting long. Volk versus Islam. We're putting both of these fights together and we're going to put it in the C tier. Yeah, another pretty underwhelming series of fights in terms of violence. The first fight was a decent back and forth with a bit of snuggling in there as well from Islam and Volk just kind of, talking to the crowd. Volk fucking bashed him late, got stuck in him in round 5. And that was sick. That was a good round of violence there because Volk was pouring on him and actually trying to finish the fight. In the second fight, obviously, Volk comes off the couch looking like an absolute pudding, looking like a pavlova, and just gets kicked in the fucking head. And it was pretty nasty. That was a sad moment for me as a Volk fan because Islam just dropped him with the head kick, which had already chinned him, and then pinned him up against the cage with his fucking massive weight bully frame, knee on his hands to kind of stop him from defending, and just wailed on his unconscious head. Just get, I'll never forget that. Volk just getting brutalised up against the cage. So for that reason alone, even though I hated it, it's got to go in the C tier. I actually respect Islam. He does go to war. He's a way more fun fighter than Habib or Marab or any of those boys, even though they're not daggy, but you know what I mean. Ank, Islam's always interesting to watch fight. Pereira versus Prohaska. This is both of their fights included as well. Going to put this one in the B tier as well. That might be hopefully my last B tier one. Pereira versus Prohaska. A lot of hype for violence in this fight. They both fights, you could say somewhat under-delivered, but the second fight was pretty sick. Both performances pretty good by Alex. You can't blame either guy. They both crashed forward and tried to do some nasty shit, but it just panned out in a really unlucky way for Yuri, really. Fight 1, there was that sus stoppage, but Alex did land a sick left hook that kind of dropped Yuri down to his knee, and then those big 12-6 elbows, or just elbows to the side of the head, that put Yuri out, basically, nearly out. And then round 2, in their second fight, just a bit tit for tat kind of in round 1. Alex looking dangerous. Yuri trying to get on the inside and land something. But Yuri overextends right at the end of that round 1 and just gets fucking put out bad, just gets dropped. And he's thinking that they called it off and arguing and stuff. He's dazed as fuck on the stool at the end of the round. And then early head kick in round 2 from Alex just sleeps him. And there was a whole bunch of unnecessary just follow-up shots too. I don't know what Herb was doing at that point. It was nasty. It was a good performance from Alex. A little bit underwhelming, based on the stakes of the fight and what we're expecting. But got to be B tier. You got to give those fights. And some bonus marks for the fucking intense stare downs those boys had. That was mad. Usman versus Masvidal. Both fights, again, getting considered here. Going in the D tier. Yeah, these fights were both disappointing as well. The first fight fucking sucked. I think it was at Fight Island in COVID, or it might have been straight up after they first started coming back to crowds. And the first fight, it was fucking shit. It was just a bit of cage, Usman holding him up against the cage, stomping his foot. I just remember him stomping his foot for 2 rounds or something. So that was shit. And then the second was also a tit for tat back and forth fight until Usman just slept him bad. That Savage kind of finish, that iconic knockout where Usman nearly decapitated Masvidal, that's the reason that we get this fight even on the tier list. If that didn't happen and they had another performance like the first fight, this would have been a F tier or not even on the list. So I'll give it D tier for that sick stoppage. But yeah, a little bit underwhelming. All right, the next one is going in the S tier, and that is Holloway versus Cater. Domination from Max Holloway. I believe this was in the Apex as well. I think maybe without a crowd. Demolition from Holloway. Wow, this is an iconic performance. 445 significant strikes landed by Max Holloway to 133 of Cater with no knockdowns. So you got to respect Cater's chin there, but it was a filthy performance from Max Holloway. One of probably the most lopsided striking 5-round fight that we've ever seen. You got dominations that what Hamzat did on DDP, but that was all just wrestling. It's pretty hard to dominate an opponent this hard over 5 rounds and not finish them. So, pillow hands Max. I don't think he was really trying that hard to chin Cater. I think once he realised that he was just leagues above him in the striking, he just started clip farming and I'm the best boxer in the UFC, baby, and doing no look punches and stuff and trying to clip farm. But it just showed that there was levels to the game. Cater toughed it out. It was a very violent performance from Max. He was just piecing Cater up and landed so much damage. And yeah, miracle that Cater even stayed in it. Gonna go low S tier, kind of high A tier. We'll go S tier for this performance. That was sick. More fights like that from Max are always going to happen when he fights a lowish, less skilled opponent like that. Let's go to the next one. This is Bilal and JDM. Fucking JDM, mate. Yeah, oi. This is a sick fight too. This is going in the A tier. This is underrated, man, I reckon. Sick war. Like Bilal, credit to Bilal. He's shed his boring persona for this fight and actually fucking got stuck in with JDM and made it a close fight. It was a good performance from Bilal, but just JDM is in that type of fight, he's not going to lose. Bilal was standing and banging and actually inviting the striking. He did try to wrestle a little bit, but as soon as JDM shucked the takedowns effectively, it was kind of over for Bilal. He just knew he was stuck on the feet with JDM, and that's someone you don't want to be stuck on the feet with. 5 rounds, both guys landing. Maybe a little bit of Aussie bias here to put in the A tier, but fuck it. This shit was hot, bro. This was a sick fight. Bilal was busted up by the end of this. There was a lot of hard punches landed in this fight and no grappling and competitive, 5-round fight. So I reckon they're the types of fights that deserve to be in the A and the B tier. All right, next one we're going to go with... I'll fix that up a little bit. Okay, next one we're going to go with is Usman versus Masvidal. No, Usman versus Covington. We're going to go with A tier for this one. These were sick fights. Sorry, I was a little bit confused there thinking, wait, Masvidal, did I just do that? No, Usman, Covington. These are the Colby and Kamaru 2 fights. Both nasty affairs. Colby had a broken jaw at one point. I think he got in the first fight, he got his jaw broken and played on. There was a lot of knockdowns. I think maybe over the course of the 2 fights, Colby got knocked down 3 or 4 times. They sort of neutralised and cancelled each other's wrestling out, which always means that you're just going to get a sick blockhead striking war. And it was just 9 rounds of pace, cardio, aggression. Usman sort of backing him up and having the heavier hands, and Colby just getting fucking punished and taking damage. So got to shout out and put that on as an iconic pair of wars there. They were both good fights. Then we got John Jones and Stipe Miocic. This is a recent one. I'm going to put it in the C tier. Pretty nasty from Jones, really. Yes, it's old man, fireman, retired fucking Stippy. But John wrestle fucked him early and did some big damage with elbows in that round 1, and then he just figured him out in the feet. Took his time and then landed that nasty spinning kick to the body that took out Stipe. There were some other clean shots landed by Jones too. John looked pretty nasty in this fight, even though it was, the opponent wasn't quite up to scratch for him. So I'll go with the C tier with it and we'll move on. Another F tier here. We've got DDP versus Hamzat. DDP versus Hamzat. Not the most entertaining fight, this one. Not a lot of violence, not really any violence from either guy in this. It was just a snoozy cuddle fest, grappling domination, 0 fucking blood or punishment or pain inflicted by Hamzat. He just wanted to win the belt, and he just knew the most efficient path of least resistance to win the belt, and he just held DDP down, who had nothing to get back up over 5 rounds. So that is the definition of an F tier violent fight. Probably G tier, Z tier, that one. We're not going to find many 5-round title fights with less pain inflicted than that one. Not even close submission attempts. The worst punishment in this fight was when Hamzat had him in the crucifix and he was just doing, just tapping him on the side of the head. Boo, Hamzat, boo. Pereira versus Roundtree, brah. That's what I'm talking about. Powhatan versus Khalil. Yeah, this is a sick fight. This was Khalil, competing early, winning round 1 and 2, possibly dropping Alex. Got him as he was spinning around, dropped him. Could give round 1 and 2 to Khalil. I think maybe round 1 was close. And then once Alex had his reads, he flipped the switch. He just turned into a predator. He just entered his flow state. He was accurate. He was devastating. Round 3 and 4, Khalil just gets fucking cooked and hunted down and butchered really. And he just took some severe damage. There's some iconic photos of Khalil's face after this whooping from Alex, and it reminds me of the way John Silva looked after their fight with Lopez, just piercing blood, defeated, scared looking, and happy for it to be over. S tier for Alex and Khalil. That was a mad fight. I really liked that performance from Alex. That was why we watched the sport. Now, in the interest of time and with my list being full, I'm just going to drop a couple of quick rapid fire honourable mentions. Some fights that maybe you're looking for that I'm not going to include on this list, but I'll tell you where I would put them. So O'Malley versus Vera 2, kind of high B, low A tier maybe. Like O'Malley did butcher Vera Cheeto in that fight and got him back for that. Got his revenge for the leg snap. So B or A tier for that. Topuria versus Oliveira, that's a pretty nasty B tier as well. I probably should have that one on here, but just ran out of space. Ilya just, showing levels in the grappling, reversing, getting him in a crucifix straight away, getting up, and then just chinning and sleeping Oliveira bad. Probably a B or C tier for that one. It was a bit nastier than some of these other ones in the D tier, I reckon. Imavov versus Adesanya, C or D tier. That was just a sick straight right from Imavov that put his out, and that uppercut against the cage was fucking nasty as well. So that probably deserves to be on here. Carlos Prates knocking out Neil Magny was pretty sick too. Maybe C or B tier. Marcin Tybura against Tai Tuivasa was pretty nasty as well. With Tai just getting that gurgle choked out cold after copping a fair bit of punishment and elbows from Tybura. That probably would have been a B tier or something on this tier list. Cannonier drowning Robocop and taking him out in round 3 or 4. That was pretty nasty from Cannonier as well. Maybe C or D tier for that one. Sugar, Sean O'Malley sleeping Aljo, probably D tier. Like down here, there was some good shots landed by Sugar on the ground, but really boring fight before that. DDP versus Izzy, possibly maybe a C tier as well. That was a decent fight with a good finish. And any Charles Oliveira, Justin Gaethje, Max Holloway main event against Dustin Poirier, all these fights probably all could be on here, but none really stood out as special as some of these other ones. You'll probably have some arguments to say, but hey, I just wanted to include a few of those other ones. Derek Lewis decapitating Curtis Blades was pretty nasty. Pavlovich versus Blades was tough as well. Any of these could be on here. These are just what I could fit on the tier list, and I run out of space outside of S and F tier. All right, with all that said and done, the final fight that's going on the card on the tier list today is a strong S tier contender that deserves to be up with some of these other big ones. One of my, probably my favourite fight of all time, or definitely one of the top few. It's S tier in a lot of different ways, this fight. That is Glover versus Yuri. Let's go, boys. This was sick. This was an amazing fight. I don't know why my tier list is fucking out. There we go. We'll leave it there. This was just a violent fever dream, this fight. I don't even understand where this fight came from, what it was for. It was for the vacant light heavyweight title in Singapore between a Brazilian and a Czech guy. And it wasn't even marketed that well. They just put it on and holy shit did it deliver. It was all offense, all output, no defense, maximum grit. Just Glover surviving a hellstorm from Yuri and then somehow Glover hanging in there and landed the shot he landed in round 5, I think it was, maybe 4, nearly snapped Yuri's neck and sent his top knot flying around like this. That was one of the biggest punches I've ever seen a man eat and stand after. And then Yuri gets the clutch round 5 KO after Glover jumps to get the ghillie and fucks up. It was one of the best, most violent wars in UFC history. Sickest fight, most hype. Just everything was right about this fight. What's not to love about a Glover Teixeira Yuri Prohaska fight? Would have been. I think that they wanted to do this fight again, but it never eventuated. I wish they did, but hey, at least we got it once. All right, boys, that is the tier list for today. Look, I've definitely missed some fights on here, and because there's been a lot of violent fights in main events in the UFC over the last 5 years. We're very spoilt as fight fans, and I hope we keep getting these matchups and these fights like Lopez and Silva, where you got hungry contenders scrapping it out and trying to make a name for himself. Drop your most crazy, violent wars in the comments below. Tell me why I'm wrong. Tell me why I'm right. Tell me how you would rearrange this tier list to make it more accurate for you. Like and subscribe. Follow the channel. Follow at Punch Ons MMA on Instagram. And next up, I'm going to have some UFC Perth, Reyes versus Ulberg predictions and breakdowns for you guys coming hopefully early this week, and we'll get that out ASAP. So I hope you enjoyed the video today. Like and subscribe. See you for some more content soon, and
Punch on.